Hey guys, welcome back inside Theater 43, another episode of Brick Builds at Theater 43. And do you remember this video? This was the big release for 75192, the UCS Millennium Falcon, released 2 years ago for May the 4th, 2017. That's when this thing launched. And there was a lot of buzz in the media and social media about what this thing was going to be, because it was advertised as the largest Lego set ever and instantly announced as Lego Star Wars. But nobody was really told what it was going to be. A lot of insiders and people were instantly coming out with their theories. It's all, it's going to be a Millennium Falcon. And sure enough, this video launched and showed off, yes, that's exactly what it's going to be, but the largest one ever. We've seen a few other in the past years. If you go through the Ultimate Star Wars Visual Dictionary, there's been a few Millennium Falcons of varying size. And there was even one prior Collector Series size. This thing's even bigger. Almost a third of the size bigger than the previous one, ranging in at 7,541 pieces. The previous set was the Taj Mahal, and if you've ever seen that, it's massive. It's a couple feet tall and wide, and it's huge and comes on its own giant platform. Beautiful piece of Lego design. This is better, more intricate, more detailed, way more small parts. It's going to be a challenge. What I want to tell you guys, this is going to be done in a couple parts. I'm going to do an introduction today, we're going to do a bit of an unboxing, and we're going to start the build, but then it'll be done over a course of a few episodes of the Brick Builds. The reason is just the scale of this thing, the amount of time it's going to take to build it. I know some people have marathoned through it, and it's taken about 30 hours straight. I think that's without breaks. We're not doing that here. I have a job and a wife and a life, and can't do that. So we're going to do it in parts, and you'll be along for the ride. This thing is the whole reason I started doing Brick Builds at Theater 43. So that gives you an idea of how excited I am about it and the motivation that's been behind it, and it's been a long time coming. Size was a major issue. This thing took, to this point, almost 2 years to get to here. When it was launched, I called the Lego stores in my area. I tried the website, impossible online. You're never going to find it online at the time. Then I ended up calling stores, found out that people were lining up outside the stores. They were finding out the shipment delivery days that Lego was getting, and maybe they're getting one, maybe they're getting two. They were not taking reservations, they were not taking pre-orders. This thing was tough to get, and then the following March, so almost a year to the day that this thing was released, I ended up getting my hands on one. They had one in Toronto. I picked it up at the at Yorkdale Mall in the Toronto area. If you're Canadian and familiar with the area, you'll know what I'm talking about. What's interesting about this thing, in terms of size and scale, Lego initially announced that it was going to come, and it did come for many people, with a cardboard foldable cart that you could set this giant box into and wheel with you out of the store to your car. Unfortunately, the Lego store I went to didn't have one, so I had to carry this thing from one end of this giant Canadian mall all the way to the parking lot in Toronto and drop this thing off at the car, and it was a challenge, to say the least. Worth it. It was a fun trip because I knew exactly what I was holding and what was about to come. The problem again then became this thing sat in my basement for about a year, and I can't explain why that happened. Everyone's like, "You haven't built it yet?" Well, no, I had other things on the go, Lego projects that we've seen, previous episodes of Brick Builds. I got very sick for a long time. There's been a whole bunch of reasons why this hasn't happened, but then I got thinking, excuse me, the Ghostbusters Fire Hall. Very same thing. I had it sit in the box for months and months. So these Lego builds, maybe they intimidate me in some strange psychological way, and I can't get past it. But we're here, and we're starting, and I'm very, very excited to share this experience with you. So it's going to be great. What we're going to do is a couple stages. We're going to unbox it. We're going to build it over a couple episodes, and you'll get to see all of it. Size was a huge thing, as I mentioned. I didn't have a place to put it. So initially I was like, well, I'm never going to own one, because when they announced the dimensions, which is, I think, over a meter long and 20-something inches high, and I forget, it's massive. I ended up realizing I needed a new coffee table down in this space, and why not get a coffee table that could house a giant Lego Millennium Falcon? So that's the plan. You'll get to see all of that as we go along here, and you know what? I think that's enough talk. Why don't we crack this thing open and see what it's all about? Okay, so I've gone ahead and pre-cut all the tape. What's really cool about this box, because of its size and it's so big, you don't really know where to start. If you look on the side, it shows you these really excellent green and red, green means go, places to cut. You don't want to cut the wrong side, just the way they've packed the boxes. So the box consists of a couple different flaps, all beautifully marked. Everything showing off the really nice stuff to do with the Millennium Falcon, the artwork, and it's all beautifully done. Even the cardboard, I mean, it's that perfect. When you get to the top and you open this thing up, you show the tray. And the tray contains something I've never really been moved by before, but the book on this thing is gorgeous. It's bound, it's heavy. This thing is bloody massive and just gorgeous. It's got a really heavy binding to it, that gives you an idea, but holding this thing, that takes 2 hands. That is very, very heavy. Gorgeous artwork as you flip through it. I mean, standard Lego stuff, but if you go to the beginning, beautiful pictures, some words about the design team, history of the Millennium Falcon, some set pieces in terms of blueprints and design work. Just really, really gorgeous stuff. One thing I'm gonna just vent a little, and I have to do it, it's tradition here at Brick Builds at Theater 43. There's stickers. But you know what? This one gets a pass. It's the Falcon. What I love, though, and I will always praise Lego for, is it comes with the UCS placard, sticker, decal, whatever you want to call it. All the standard stuff that we've seen in all the other UCS builds, regardless of scale and size, all the information about it and the same matching artwork. I really appreciate when they do that. It's nice to put things on display when you put this much effort into it. So the stickers in this beautiful giant book are what sits on top. And then you get into the boxes. And each box is basically simply labeled, has some wonderful artwork on it. Each box labeled with a quote from the movie. This one, for example, she may not look like much, but she's got it where it counts, kid. I mean, gorgeous. Really nice. Just every little detail is excellent. Little serial number on the bottom of each box. I'm not sure if that gives you a starting point. We'll find out when we get to that point there. But very, very cool. Really excited to start this. Some lovely work on the top here. I'll try and get some shots of how the boxes are laid out inside the main box. And I would assume we're going to find out as we open if they're numbered bags or how that works from there. Just flipping through here, because I'm trying to find a starting point. I don't know which box to open first. They're all labeled kind of the same, and they're all just laid out inside the main box. What I do dig, I'm in the French section here, there is a history of the Millennium Falcon inside this, which I thought was really cool. Not just in terms of design for the movie, but for Lego. If I can find the page. Graphic design, like just neat stuff here for the fan. I mean, they call it the collector series for a reason. You pay a premium price for this thing. I think it sits around like, I think we're up to about $1,000. I paid about 900 and change for this thing Canadian. I think it's a little less, $8.99 in the American maybe. Hard to say. But here's the page. It takes you all the way to 2015 with the when they redesigned the original Falcon, just the standard size Falcon for the Force Awakens release. They changed the satellite dish and added different minifigures. That was about it. But now you've got the UCS and the history of that. 2007 was the original UCS. So over a decade later, actually it was a decade later by the time they released this thing. Here it was. So as I get to the first page, it doesn't really tell me which box to open first. So I'm going to have to play a little bit. I'll let you know. Okay, I figured it out. You have to open all 4 of these giant boxes to find what you need. The reason is they've mixed all the Lego across all the boxes. So still numbered bags, which is fine, but now you got to go digging. You got to find where your bags are. So in this bag I've got 1 and 13 and 14 and 4, no 2, no 3. So it looks like we're going digging. Help me, Obi-Wan. Okay, so there it is. 4 boxes. I've lost track of how many bags. 7,591 pieces. You ready? I am if you are. Here we go. Okay, here it is. This is bag 1. which was actually made up of about 5 bags. The superstructure for the Millennium Falcon. I cannot believe how exciting this was to do. I was all giddy the whole time. Where do we start on this? Everything is done in this fantastic dual layer design. I would say 75% of this thing is a stacked multiple layer mimicking each side, top and bottom. There's a few intricate spots that are a little more specific to what they're going to support or hold, but everything for the most part is mirrored in 2 layers. All those layers are held together by these fantastic black forks. These, I'd say 3 unit wide or tall forks that are connecting all of these dual plates or these dual layers together all around the entire build. This thing is bomb-proof. It is so rigid and durable. I feel like I could toss it off a bridge and nothing's going to pop off. You have to consider the weight that this thing is going to have to support. In terms of scale, you're going to hear me talk a lot about the size and just the scope of the building of this thing. When I usually do Lego, and you've seen it in some of the other videos we've done, I grab one of these little acrylic plastic bowls, fill it with each bag, and I go. It's just a way to organize Lego. First thing I discovered, I needed a second bowl. So bag one actually consisted of 5 bags. What's really, really nice about how they've done this, and I don't honestly know if there's a method to the madness at Lego, if there's a way they populate the bags other than beginning to end. What they did is they broke each bag down almost to size of component, and in many cases color as well. So what I was able to do is put the really small stuff together in one bowl and the larger pieces in another. And maybe that's strategy on their part when they put something like this together, but if that's the way the whole build is going to be done, it's going to go a long way. I was able to spread out a little bit more. I wasn't digging through giant piles of clustered Lego. It was a nice fit as to how they put it all together. Now let's talk construction. Everything was put together in quadrants. So each section was done, front half, back half, and then this section down the middle was done as its own piece. Now everything came together very simply. It all aligned into each other, and you'll see that on the time lapse. But what holds it together are these fantastic, the gray 3-wide locking pins. So basically just through each hole of the frame pieces to set in a set position, and then they're pushed in to lock everything in place. Something I ran into, and this is going to be a challenge for most of this build. When you take on a build of this size, remember, almost 8,000 pieces, if you miss a piece at any point in the wrong spot, or you leave it out, you're not paying attention to the designs, you can get stuck. That's what happened to me. I was building the section in the middle that's holding the front half to the middle of the superstructure, and I had a piece out of alignment, so the center bracket couldn't be mounted because I had one of the gray lock pins in the wrong spot. And everything has to be aligned left, right, front, back for those pins to come out. So I had to remove a whole section of lock pins and take a half of the structure off in order to get the center lock pin back in. It was a mess. So something that's going to have to be very carefully monitored is where everything lands and that nothing is missing. Fortunately, and maybe unfortunately, they don't offer a lot of spare parts. I had very minimal spare parts left at the end. Usually there's a couple spares of unique pieces, things like that. None of that. I maybe had 2 or 3 pieces left over, and I got to a point where I was double checking that I hadn't missed it because I wanted to make sure they were in fact just extras or spares, not extra, you know what I'm saying. They weren't left out. So we're going to have to be very, very careful with that. It took a good extra 25 minutes or so to fix that whoops. So it's something that we're absolutely going to need to pay attention to. One thing that got annoying towards the end, at the bottom, you flip the piece over, the frame over, and they have these 2 long pieces that are held in again with the support tracks with the blue click pieces that go into the holes to hold everything secure together. They made it hard to build. So once you got it attached, it was hard to keep the thing centered. Lots of rocking back and forth. I'm sure that will come into play later with detail and bottom frame or bottom plate of the design. But for now, it was a bit of a pain in the butt, and I'm sure as we start adding pieces to this, it's going to be kind of annoying. So, what else to say? Other than I had a lot of fun, and all I was building was this. So just the frame of this thing, we get a good idea of what kind of weight we're going to be holding, the size this thing's going to be getting to. Consider also for a second here, what's missing? We all know what the Falcon looks like. We kind of have an idea of where it is. This will be the sides, the turrets on the sides. I haven't quite figured out what's front, what's back, but if you think for a second, the foils on the front, the triangular foils, and the missing escape pod that we learned about in the Solo flick, that's all missing. This thing's going to get bigger. This is just the superstructure that sits inside that's going to support everything. So this thing is going to be huge. I cannot wait. I had so much fun doing this, and I cannot wait to build the rest of it, and I look forward to getting more to you. All of this content will be coming to you on, on multiple episodes, and I do hope that you continue to follow us on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and all those social media platforms. We're there. I'm going to be posting pictures and updates, and I hope you come along for this journey because it's going to be really, really cool. The next episode will continue with the build. There'll be not nearly as much chatter. It's just going to be Lego from here on out. Thank you so much for watching. I know this one's gone on a little long, but lots of content to cover on this build. 8,000 pieces! Amazing. I'm really, really excited. Tune in soon. We'll be back. Keep on building, as always. And I'm going to go grab the next bags and get started on the next episode right now because Falcon! It's here. It's so exciting. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good one.